Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of All About Nutrition. I hope all of you had a good week and the previous video gave you a little bit of insight into how you should work towards bettering your progress. The topic I'm going to actually discuss today is something that I get a lot of questions about and also proves to be one of the most important nutrients that we need to look at, whether it's fat loss, muscle gain, or just getting stronger or just keeping yourself full. So obviously I'm talking about proteins, and we're going to discuss what protein does and also the sources of protein that you can use in order to fulfill your daily requirement. So the first thing we need to understand is whether or not you work out on a regular basis, whether or not you work out at all. Every human body requires some amount of protein every single day, right? This tells us that the reason why everyone requires protein is because protein not just helps in muscle growth, but also in muscle retention, the muscle that you already have. In order to retain that muscle, you need to be eating a certain amount of protein every day. And then the quantity of your protein may change depending on whether you are on fat loss, muscle gain, athletic performance, general fitness, or depending on your height, on your weight, on your other activities, etc. Right? So after retention, the other thing that helps us with regard to protein is obviously muscle growth, which also tells us that proteins are the building blocks of muscles, right? So if you eat the right amount of protein and you're doing a workout that is kind of matching your daily protein intake or vice versa, then there is no way that you're not going to see your muscles grow, right? The third and fourth thing other than retention and growth are recovery and repair, probably the most essential part of actually consuming protein every day. If you're going to skip your protein on days that you haven't worked out, then your recovery and repair may be hampered because this process kind of happens over 24 to 48 hours. So make sure you get in that protein even if it's a Sunday and it's your rest day, or any other day in the week when you're resting and not working out. Right? So we've targeted retention, we've targeted growth, we've targeted recovery and repair. Now another very important function of protein is also to give energy. Right? Now, this sort of a scenario where proteins are being used for your primary source of fuel in the body, this happens only when your body is undergoing something called as gluconeogenesis, which is basically increasing your protein intake to maybe double or maybe even triple the amount of what you need to consume, depending on your workout, where it will target it will target not just giving you enough muscle in terms of growth, but also energy. Right? So gluconeogenesis is a completely different topic that we need to spend a little bit more of time on. So we'll keep that for another day. But let's get down to sources of protein. So I'm going to break it down for you and make it as simple as possible for you to understand how to select your protein to fulfill your daily requirement, right? So in order to understand this, the first thing we need to know is that proteins are made up of something called as amino acids, right? So every protein, let's simplify it, one protein bond is made up of several amino acids, right? And we require these amino acids known as essential amino acids that our body cannot prepare on their own, right? So we need to get these amino acids through our diet on a regular basis, right? Now, we have a percentage of amino acids that the human body requires on a daily basis, right? So when all of these amino acids actually come together, right, and complete their profile, which means you have all the 9 essential amino acids and the amino acids that our body already prepares, all of them together, then let's say that the protein bond is probably the strongest, right? So to put it down into simple words, foods that give you maximum protein and minimum or zero carbs are termed as first-class protein sources. So in this case, what I'm trying to tell you is, if your amino acid profile is complete, only then does the protein get the category of being in the first-class protein sources, right? So when we look at first-class protein sources, we have chicken, mutton, fish, paneer, eggs, whey protein, casein, soy, beef, pork, ham, mutton, all of that. Right, so you do see that I have mentioned all the meats. I have mentioned whey protein, I have mentioned paneer or cottage cheese, and I have mentioned eggs. I've also mentioned soy. Obviously, your next question is what about dal, right? So when it comes to dals, pulses, your choles, rajmas, quinoa, Greek yogurt, hemp seeds, nuts, all of these are actually second-class protein sources, which means, yes, they do have some amount of protein in them, but they're not a complete protein, which then tells us that they do not have the required amount of amino acids in them, which actually helps in muscle growth, retention, recovery, repair, etc. Right? And most importantly, these foods are the ones that give you maximum carbs, minimum protein. and second class protein, right? So what you're looking at is dal, one bowl of dal, which will give you 7 to 8 grams of maybe second class protein, right, is going to give you at least 20 grams of carbs, right? So chole or pulses or any other kind of beans, right, will always give you more carbs than protein. So if you're adding, let's say, a couple of chickpeas in your salad as a topping, it's okay. But if you were to eat 100 grams of chickpeas every day to just get in a decent amount of protein, you would definitely be pounding on a lot more of carbs, which again is not going to balance out your protein intake, right? Now, when it comes to hemp seeds, 100 grams of hemp seeds are known to give you about 15 to 18 grams of protein, again, second class protein. But the sad part is that there is no chance of us, consuming 100 grams of hemp seeds on a regular basis. It's going to prove to be very unhealthy and it'll upset your stomach. When it comes to veggies like broccoli or spinach or any of these, all of them are low on protein and are a second class of protein, right? So incomplete source, incomplete profile, amino acid profile will always make it a second class protein. Complete amino acid profile will always make it a first class protein, right? So if you feel that, what about I can maybe, I can add maybe a pulse, maybe a little bit of hemp seeds, maybe a little bit of flax seeds, and kind of mix them all up to get certain amount of protein. Yes, you can do that. You can mix and match your ingredients in order to get maybe 20 grams of protein from one meal or 25 grams of protein from one meal, but check your carbs, right? Because if I am eating, let's say, cottage cheese or grilled chicken, and I'm consuming maybe 100 grams of that, which is approximately giving me 20 grams of protein, it's a lot easier for me to pair it up with maybe a slice of pita or a little bit of brown rice, some quinoa and things like that, as opposed to me eating an entire meal which is giving me just 20 grams of carbs, but 20 grams of protein, but a lot more of carbs as opposed to the protein content. So know your protein and try and choose protein which will kind of help you fulfill your daily requirement without giving you the extra amount of carbs, because it's always good to choose a carb source to fulfill your daily requirement of carbs. Like, I'd rather have a toast with eggs, I'd rather have a rice with a vegetarian or a chicken curry, right? I would get my carb sources in from all the ingredients that are actually carbs, as opposed to getting them in from a second class protein, right? Most importantly, I'm guessing you guys have already noticed that I've not spoken too much about soy as a source of protein. Well, yes, it is the only vegan source of protein that's available, and it does classify as a first class protein source. Soy or soybeans or tofu, as you know, is 100 grams of it will give you approximately 20 to 22 grams of protein. But the sad part is that tofu has certain goitrogens, which are called anti-nutrients. And these anti-nutrients basically impair your thyroid function, impair the absorption of calcium in your body, and also a bunch of other vitamins and minerals that your body really needs. So I would advise you to restrict tofu or soybeans to maybe not more than once or max twice a week. I would really recommend you to look at all the first class protein sources that we've kind of spoken about in the beginning, and try and use those in order to fulfill your daily requirement. So know your protein, choose the right protein, and in my next video, I'll help you understand what quantity looks like and how to get, let's say, X amount of grams of protein on a daily basis.